Ladies and gents, it's your boy Rocco Yaps. Today I'm gonna be yapping about some more boxing news and stuff. If you guys are new to the channel, this is a series that I do where I talk about multiple different things going on in the boxing world just to keep you guys informed. Because in my opinion, they don't deserve uh, their own little videos. So, without further ado, let's get started. For example, this is the first subject that we're gonna talk about. In my opinion, this is nothing I should make a whole video about. But the weird tank video that he uploaded on his Instagram story, I believe it was, where he basically was just showing the fit. He was basically just chilling, showing the fit, dancing, being a little goofball in his fucking big ass walk-in closet, and that was it. I mean, now the key things that I did point here is that it's just an odd video, of course, but he seemed a little bit more happy than he normally does. And everything that I see from him, especially lately, like after the cancellation of his exhibition fight with Jake Paul because of his court stuff that he had. So I think that's why he may be posting this and may be happy, because the only thing he ever said after the cancellation of his fight with Jake Paul was that one tweet that he made, basically saying that he was down to run it back again with Isaac Pitbull Cruz after Cruz and Roach fought. So, yeah, other than that, but he had never posted anything like really of himself like that. So I guess something's going good with him, or like I put here in my last keynote, hopefully this is a good sign of him returning to the ring soon against a good fight. Finally, you know, I would love to see him face probably like a William Cepeda as a return. I think would be a good fight for him to return, get back in there, and probably try to unify more, especially since we don't know what necessarily Shakur is gonna do, win or lose against Teofimo, if he's gonna go back to 135 or is he's gonna stay at 140. Like I said, even if he does win or lose, so we'll have to wait on that. Then you have um then you have the situation of like the IBF is getting a new challenger. I mean a new champion between the two fights. So there's stuff that he could do, and I hope he comes back and he's ready for that. Now the second point in the business talk today, we have the knockout in Germany, third round TKO victory for Caballero in his homecoming fight. Uh, this was a fight card I wanted to make a video about, but I just kind of felt like it was, I don't know, I felt like it was better to do one for the Matias versus Smith one, because that one was more 50-50 and a lot of the fights were a lot like that, as opposed to this one where it's like, I did expect Caballero to win. I did expect him to win by knockout. Like I state many times in my videos, when you have a guy who's as high as Caballero, you don't want to put him in tough fights, especially if it's a homecoming fight. Like, for example, he's from Germany. He was born and raised in Germany. Um, and he hadn't fought since like 2022 or 23 in Germany. So last time he left Germany, he didn't have a belt like that, and now he's coming back as the interim WBC, and pretty much a lot of people would consider, including myself, the number one guy who should challenge Usyk, or at the very least Fabio Wardley, since Fabio Wardley became the new WBO champion. Um, I just think Kovalev is done due for a title fight. A chance at becoming a world champion. And there's only two world champions in the heavyweight division right now. So I think he's more than deserving, and he's the number one guy who deserves a shot at any of those two guys. Now, I will say I was a little impressed by his opponent. Like I said, typically homecoming fights for people like Caballero, their promoters and their managers and their team don't put too tough of an opponent. They usually do it for Caballero and guys in the level of Caballero to look good, to then promote bigger fights in the future. and this was no exception. But I will say that Kimba or Kiniba, I don't know how to say his name. Um, I was decently impressed with the 3 rounds that he lasted with Caballero. I was decently impressed of how durable he was, of just how much better his performance was than I thought it was gonna be, how much more durable he was than I thought he was gonna be, and how better his punch output was than I thought it was gonna be. I thought, you know, I thought maybe at most the size was gonna keep him Cabello at bay for a little bit and then get knocked out. I did speculate that he would probably get knocked out around 3 or 4, maybe 5 at the latest, pushing it. But I didn't expect him to perform as good as he did against Cabello during the time that he had before getting stopped. Now he did get dropped and wobbled, but he got stopped by the ref. Some people I've been hearing that call it like a short stoppage. I don't think so. I think it was the ref saw that it was just a one sided beatdown at that point, and there was just no need to keep exposing Kiniba to more of a devastating finish, which Caballero was going for and was gonna get it. Now Caballero did afterwards. Obviously the most important question is like what is next for Caballero, because like I said, he is in that position where he is indeed the number one most deserving challenger. I don't care who. Tom was not more deserving than this man. Fabio wasn't more deserving than this man. The only guy who was more deserving than this man was Joseph Parker, and Parker lost to Wardley, and it's not like he could fight Parker right now because we're still finding out what's going to be wrong with Parker's suspension, since they found um, in a drug test that he had cocaine in his system. So Parker's out of the question, and I'm not saying like I'm trying to hide Caballero from a tough fight like Itama, or yeah, basically Itama's the tough fight, because I'm not trying to hide him, but what I am trying to say is that at least before we give him a tough fucking fight like it is Itama, give him a shot at a title. He deserves a shot at a title, whether it's Usyk or Wardley. At this point, it doesn't matter. Obviously, he should get more of an Usyk opportunity, but with the things that Usyk wants to do in the sense of fighting, uh, fighting fucking, I don't know why his name is escaping me right now, but Deontay Wilder. There you go. Fuck, holy shit, I'm getting old. But yeah, he's wanting to fight Wilder, your boy, the Bronze Bomber, which I kind of understand. It's a big pay-per-view fight. It's bigger than Kovalev. It's bigger than Wardley, and It's an easier fight than both of these guys. So I understand why Usyk and his team would want to do it. And then, in the other hand, you have a still pretty dangerous fight for other reasons. You have Wardley, who's the WBO champ, hasn't defended it. This would be a good way to defend your newly crowned fight. I mean, belt that you just gained. So, Kovalev, in my opinion, more than deserves a shot at one of those two guys. Now, if he gets the shot and he loses, then I see him bouncing back with a pretty light fighter, and then coming into a hard fight with, say, a Moses Itama. Would be a good matchup between Moses Itama and Caballero to show who's the new now number one ranked contender across the boards. Like who's the most number one deserving guy for a title shot. And I think that's the only reason. That's the only way I see Caballero should be fighting Itama, is if he gets the opportunity to go for a belt and loses, has his bounce back fight where he looks good, and then fight someone like Itama to then get back to the top to challenge uh, a champion yet again. But before, like, in being in talks right now, I don't see it as a good move for Caballero. If he does beat Itama and he becomes the guy to beat Itama, fuck, that would do wonders for his career. That would send him high, soaring, and would immediately be like, no, one of you two champions, whether Usyk or Worley, one of you two motherfuckers got to give him a shot. And the one guy who is going to be more obligated to is the WBC champion, who is Usyk, because Caballero has the WBC interim title. So yeah, I just think he's more than deserved a shot at one of the two title holders. And if he loses or wins after that and he decides to fight someone like Italma or someone like Fury or Joshua, that's up to him. But I think um, the two champions need to get together and give him a shot. Now, Vergil Ortiz versus Boots, not happening. What is going on? So here's what's going on. We were told, that there was negotiations for Boots and Ortiz to happen, but Boots needed to come up to 154 because that's where Ortiz was. Now, originally, a lot of people were shitting on Boots because it came out that Boots told Eddie Hearn, his promoter for Matchroom Boxing, that he didn't want to go straight into Vergil Ortiz or any of the top 10 guys until he had one warm up or like pretty much like a warm up, like dip your toes into the water type fight. Because he never fought at 154. He's moving up to the division. He's new to it. He wants to test the waters. Now, he goes up to 154, has a good fight where he knocks out the guy in the first round. Looks good. So it was like, well, he had his first fight at 154. He looks good. He looks like Boots Ennis that gained popularity at 147. Everything's good with Ennis. Now we just need Ortiz to be good in his fight because he already had a fight scheduled. Literally, like I think it was like 2.5 weeks after the fight that Ennis has against Erickson Lubin. So Ortiz was fighting Erickson Lubin, a good contender, a good guy who had been at the top, had fought some of the top guys in the division since like way back in the day up to now. So it was a good challenge. It was a good challenge for Ortiz. It was a good name in his resume. And he beat him in 2 rounds, I think. Like 3 rounds, I think. Yeah, I think it was 2 rounds. Now, Ortiz was on top of Boots because his win was a lot more impressive and meaningful than Boots' win when Boots made his debut at 154 compared to Ortiz knocking out Erickson Lubin in like 2, 3 rounds, which I think it was two. And yeah, so but Boots was there. He got up in the ring after Vergil won. Both the teams were there, and they were basically just saying like, "Hey, sign the contract. I'm ready. You ready? Let's go." Yada yada, and it was supposedly seemed like a done deal. Until, and De La Hoya's words, that's why I have it here. De La Hoya put a statement on Instagram on his clapback Thursday, saying how he wants 60-40%, 60 being in favor of Vergil, with an extra 5% to the winner. Meaning, out of the whole money that they have for these fighters, they want to divide the money into 60% going to Vergil, 40% going to Boots, and whoever ends up being the winner will take an extra 5% from the winning. So for example, if they do this and it's 60 Vergil, 40 Boots, but Boots win, Boots would leave with 45% of the revenue, while Vergil would leave with 55% of the revenue. On the other hand, if Vergil wins, he would leave with 65% of the revenue, and Boots would leave with 35% of the revenue. So that's the contract that De La Hoya was saying that he would only sign and allow for his fighter to have if it's 60-40 with 5% going to the winner. Also, De La Hoya said that Vergil isn't the one that needs this fight like Boots needs it, and the team in Matchroom Boxing. He even called Eddie Hearn, promoter of Boots, desperate, and that he was showing his hand too much by begging for this fight. And basically saying that, on the other hand, his fighter, Ortiz, does not need this fight as much as Boots needs it. That he could go and have mega fights with people, and he mentioned too, he specifically said he could have a mega fight in Cowboy Stadium in Dallas against Spence Jr., Errol Spence Jr., or he can have a fight in Texas in Austin against Sebastian Fundora, who's currently WBC and WBO. No, WBC only. WBC world champion at 154 pounds. So he said he could have a fight with either one of those two guys, and it would be a big mega fight for Vergil, and basically saying like it would be just as big or pretty close to as big as him fighting Boots, as if he went to go fight Spence, to the point where he's saying like, oh, we could probably get Spence and Ortiz to fill up Cowboy Stadium, or we could go to Austin and fight Fundora for a world title shot, and it would also be a mega fight. Eddie Hearn then clapped back with a video where he was getting interviewed about what De La Hoya was saying, and he said originally that they all had agreed, to the point where even Boots Ennis signed this contract and Vergil didn't, but that they originally had agreed before De La Hoya came out with this Clapback Thursday video, that they all sat down in a room and came to an agreement of 50-50%, meaning out of 100% of the earnings, both fighters get an equal split of 50%, but the winner gets an extra 5. So, meaning if Ortiz wins, he gets 55%, Boots gets 45. But if Boots wins, he gets 55, Vergil gets 45. That's basically what the contract was saying. 50-50, but the extra 5% goes to the winner. And that they all agreed to it, to the point where Eddie Hearn and Boots Ennis signed the contract, but then Vergil and his team did not. And then that's when he heard the video of De La Hoya saying, hey, only way I will let my fighter sign this is if we do 60-40 with 5% to the winner. Which, in my opinion, this is very much hurting both of these guys' careers and the sport. This is such a mega fight that could have happened already, to the point where people were speculating that this could have been in the undercard as a co-main event to Ryan Garcia and Mario Barrios. Stuff like that. Like, this fight could have been happened. This fight could have been taking place and be ready to go, but unfortunately, it's not. It's not looking like it is. It's not looking like it's going to be anytime soon. We're probably looking into the summer if they do come into an agreement. It's probably gonna be around the summertime. I'm just very disappointed in the sense that everybody seems to have the same opinion of Boots is going to beat Vergil Ortiz. At least they have the more confident in Boots beating, to the point where the team in Vergil, like the people on the side of Vergil, are thinking the same way, to the point where they want to avoid this fight at all costs. And in order to avoid it, they're trying to paint and sell the image more of other just as interesting or supposedly more interesting than this fight. For example, De La Hoya saying we could go fight Spence Jr. Cowboy Stadium, or we could fight Fundora in Houston. Now, both of those fights are good and I would love to see them. But the only one that I see a reason as to why it would be better to have is against Fundora, because if you beat Fundora, not only is that a good name in your resume, you defeat one of the top guys in your division, but he becomes a champion for the first time. Vergil's never been a champion. So he becomes one of the new crown champions. And that would, I think, while he goes to become champion, if Boots sees that, hey, Boots go for the WBA championship belt. That shit is in the hands of a strong contender, but a guy that I think Boots could beat in this African fighter who is now the WBA world champion. Boots go gets a WBA champion belt. Ortiz gets the WBC belt. You guys both win your fights. Then we could get in the ring and have a unification belt between two of the best young champions in the boxing world right now. But even then, we want this as like, at least me as a boxing fan, I want this fight so much, to the point where I don't care if either man has a belt. I don't care if Ortiz has a belt or Boots has a belt. I don't care what level the belt is, because the only belt that would be at play here is Ortiz's WBC interim belt. That would be the only belt that would be in play, is the WBC interim title, which Vergil Ortiz currently is the champion of. But you take that away, I wouldn't give a fuck. It could be the NABF belt on the line. I wouldn't give a fuck. I just want to see these two guys fight. and it's disappointing because it seemed like these two guys were pretty close already to making it happen. That it was, I wouldn't say a done deal, but it was just there. You know, any moment now we were gonna the next. It seemed like the next news of this fight was going to be a done deal. They fight this day on this month. Stay tuned. Be ready for more information. And we would have been like, whoa, confirmed. I would have been here fucking saying, hey, Ortiz versus Boots confirmed for fucking, I don't know, March 15th, some shit like that, you know. But no, I'm here saying, putting in my video, telling you guys, unfortunately, this shit is going to be extended in terms of negotiation a little longer, based off the fact that it seems like Golden Boy or De La Hoya, or the people that manage the careers and the fights of Vergil, don't really seem to have much confidence in Vergil's ability to come out victorious. When it seems like Vergil, obviously Vergil, but Vergil and Robert Garcia, who's his trainer, and other people who are fans, you know, are confident that he could come out victorious. Or me, I'm confident. I don't even know who would win. This is such a 50-50 fight, but I'm confident that another guy's gonna get smoked by the other guy. That's my take. I don't feel confident. I mean, I feel confident saying that Boots is not gonna get smoked by Vergil. Same way I'm confident I could say that Vergil isn't gonna get smoked by Boots. So that's the only disappointing part. But moving on, we have Ryan Garcia versus Mario Barrios. The fight will take place on February 21st in Vegas. You guys know him for a while. This has been already confirmed, and Ryan and Barrios have been training. But as of right now, the fight card, the full fight card, hadn't been released yet. And we finally got a glimpse, a rumor of what that fight card could look like. And I have the photo here that was posted that supposedly this could be the fight going on and taking place in February 21st in Vegas in the Mario Barrios versus Garcia undercard. Now, this is a very solid card. My opinion, this is very solid. This is a very good night. It's already a main event fight where you could have put a bunch of trash leading up to the main event. People would have still came because it's Ryan Garcia finally going for a world title shot. I mean, he has against Devin Haney. He was going for a world title shot when they fought at 140, but he came in over the weight. So even if he won, which he did win, he wasn't crowned the champion. But this seems like finally the moment for him to become a world champion. Mario Barros has been getting more popular lately, especially in his last two fights. One of them being an intense draw, back and forth fight in an undercard of Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, which he became pretty popular of. Then obviously his last fight where it was a draw against the legend Manny Pacquiao in Manny Pacquiao's return to the ring after 4 years. So he's pretty popular right now. So it was already going to be a pretty big draw. Anything Ryan Garcia is going to sell, and then you combine it with someone like Mario Barrios, and then you throw a world title belt. It was just going to sell. But I do like the matchups that they have. Uh, More specifically, I'm very interested in the Richard Torres versus Frank Sanchez fight, the Resendiz versus Munguia, and at the very end, the Gary Russell versus Andy Hiraka. So the reason I'm interested in these fights more, um, I haven't seen much of Miguel Magnesi. I haven't seen much of Mark Gazio, and I'm pretty sure there's no really belts in the line right there. But the reason I'm interested, mainly apart from the main event, and probably even more than the main event, is Richard Torres versus Frank Sanchez. That's a fucking devastating fight. I mean, you got two of the strongest heavyweight prospects, two of the most famous heavyweight prospects in boxing right now, facing up against each other, and this could be a fight that pushes either one of these guys way high into the rankings of any of the belts. Currently, right now, I don't know what Frank Sanchez has in terms of belts, and if I remember right, Richard Torres has like an IBF international belt, the NABF belt, and like the WBO international belt as well. So he has those three belts. He's in the rankings for the WBO and IBF, and Frank Sanchez would would be a name that puts him way higher in those listings. I imagine. I don't see a reason why. Same thing with Frank Sanchez. The only thing is that Frank Sanchez doesn't have as much popularity and exposure as Torres does. So this would do good for his career. And plus, the winner could probably go on to fight another tough fight like Itama or something like that. So I'm pretty interested in this fight, and it's gonna be exciting. And then my second most interesting one is Armando Resendiz versus Simon Munguia. That one's gonna be a banging fucking fight. You got Armando Resendiz who defeated Caleb Plant last year in July and became the WBA interim title holder. And then Crawford retiring, the WBA decided to ascend Resendiz to world champion level status. So now this would be pretty much his first time ever fighting after Caleb Plant, but also as a champion. This would be his first title defense. Jaime Munguia is a respectable guy to give a world title shot to. And I think if Resendiz beats Munguia, it would be a respectable title defense. Like, first time you ever fought as a world champion, defending your belt was against someone like Jaime Munguia. I think it's a good fight. Jaime Munguia also hasn't fought in a while since May. I think so. He hasn't fought since May in the undercard of Canelo versus School in Riyadh when he had his rematch against that one French guy that knocked him out in Tijuana. So I would love to see this fight. This is a banging fight. And then the last one is just seeing Gary Antoine Russell back in the ring. He hasn't been in the ring for almost a year now. Um, he fought March when he beat Rayo Valenzuela via unanimous decision, crowning himself the new 140-pound WBA world champion. And yeah, he hasn't fought since. And I just want to see him back in the ring, especially since Smith won, and Shakur versus Teofimo's happening, and then Kishan is now in the mix at 140. Richard Hitchens there, Oscar Duarte is there, Isaac Pipo Cruz is there. You have Roach who's there. So I don't know. It's just my opinion. There's Russell combining Russell with any one of those fighters is gonna be a fucking spectacular fight. So I'm glad he's gonna possibly supposedly be back in the ring. And yeah, Ryan is looking good. Also, another note is that Ryan is looking very good, in shape, and is looking very focused in this Barrios fight. Um, you probably hear it all the time that they say they're good, they're the best training camp they've ever had, but it's realistically looking a lot like he is taking Mario Barrios serious. He's taking the opportunity of being world champion serious. So in the sense of, like, he had a chance to become world champion, and he would have been world champion if he beat him when he beat Devin Haney, if he would have made the weight. But since he didn't make the weight, he was not the champion despite him beating the champion. So all he has to do is come in shape in the sense of making weight, and then be dedicated, be focused in training and in the fight. And I think he beats Mario Barrios pretty easily. I think he even knocks him out. I think he knocks him out around the sixth to seventh round. No fucking pun intended with the 6-7 bullshit. But yeah, I think that fool could beat him. I do currently believe that Mario Barrios is one of the weakest champions in boxing right now, and he's definitely the weakest champion in at 147. I think he is the weakest champion at 147 right now. So, and he's slightly below Rolly Romero, which is not, which is pretty sad because it's not that hard to be better than Rolly. But I digress. Now, the last thing I have for you guys is just a quick little thing of Moses Itama versus Franklin. This is a banging fight. This is a good test for Itama. This is a good showing of just improving and upping the ladder of difficulty and climbing the ladder of the ranks. Uh, Itama versus Franklin was supposed to happen this month, January of 2026, in the 24th, so around late this month. But unfortunately, Queensberry and the Ring have come out saying that Itama did suffer a minor injury that wasn't gonna let him be able to fight the 24th. So I guess, and the reason I'm saying minor injury, they haven't said anything, but the reason I say minor injury is because it's only postponed a month, so it's only 4 more extra weeks, which realistically means that he's probably gonna need 2 to 3 weeks of healing and then get back in the rhythm of stuff in order to be in shape and ready to fight. So I don't know what he injured. I don't know how severe it is. I just personally think it's not going to be that serious since it got postponed to now being the 28th of February of 2026. So a month, basically a month more from his original scheduled bout. So yeah, he's probably going to heal for 2 to 3 weeks and then train for the last 3 weeks and boom, fights on. So yeah, that's the only thing. And then everything so far is staying the same in terms of it's almost still fighting Franklin, and everybody who's in the card is still going to be in the card. So that is everything for me, ladies and gents. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for always clicking the video and taking time out of your day to watch. If you're new or you haven't yet, hit the subscribe. It's free and it helps a lot, and it just means a lot to me, and it'll help out for me to be continuing to make these videos as fast as I can, with things going on in personal life, work and other stuff. I am still trying to pump out these videos for you guys, and I do like doing my research. Even though I'm a fan, I do like doing my research, um and making as good of a quality of a video for you guys. So that being said, I've yapped long enough. Thank you very much. Have a good one. I'll see you till next time. God bless.